Alrighty. Hello, Hika. Let's see. All right. Again, this is just a test stream to, I guess, see if anyone wants to do like a Q&A thing. So let's see. I'm gonna, Wart. All right, so I have here a couple notes I have printed out from one of the Twitter threads I did a while back on all my narratology stuff. And let's see. I really don't know where to begin. I have not really planned all this through other than, I guess, let's see. Hello, Michael. So I guess to start with, I'm going to probably make a vlog about this later, is what do I guess, consider good writing? Would that be a, Peach? What I consider good writing, I guess? Or if you have any other questions, just ask away. I guess get the ball rolling. And I'll answer it. And I have my little illustrating board to give any visual aids. Let me close this door back here. Should help with the acoustics. Okay, I guess while we wait for, let's see. Yeah, no one else has said anything in the chat yet. Let's see. Okay, Hika says, I'll be a good start, I'd say. Give grounds for your opinions, examples, maybe some professional advice. Okay, so apparently, and I've never gotten a straight answer on this, my idea of what is good writing, always with a sarcastic trademark after it, is some weird, impossible to reach standard that everything must be artsy-fartsy or something. I don't know. I've never gotten a straight answer. But no, here's my answer of what great writing is. Great writing is, let's see, Peachy asks, you're going to finish your Walfus projects. I don't have the mojo to make stuff anymore. All I can really do is just help other people make stuff, which is why I'm doing these streams. Okay, so what I consider to be good writing, quote unquote, is there's a bunch of factors. Let's see, where do I start? There's a lot. Like I said in the announcement, it's very complicated. Okay, I guess the first thing I should address is that not everything has to be hoity-toity, highfalutin art. Otherwise, we wouldn't have things like Beavis and Butthead or various reality shows. We would not have Looney Tunes. I guess for weeaboos, we would not have, let's see, Infinite Stratos or what other ridiculous series are there? One Eromanga Sensei is one example I used as not all writing has to be quote-unquote highfalutin stuff. But target audiences are another thing. There's I guess, high art, which is like the literary crap, the hoity-toity stuff everyone thinks I say is quote-unquote good writing. But then you have the, I guess, the everyday run-of-the-mill stuff. That's one thing. The second, target audience is a big part of it. It's who are you writing for? The same people that would watch Downton Abbey are not the same people that would watch Jackass, and vice versa. Okay, another thing. Okay, this one I like. Okay. This one comes from the philosopher Immanuel Kant, or Kant, or however you pronounce it. And there's the 4 different reactions people have to any sort of work. There's the initial gut reaction to the work. There's the fridge logic reaction to the work. There is the work passed through a rubric. Actually, I forgot what the... Okay, Peachy says, what will be the future of your Walfus content? I really don't think I have a future in Walfus anymore unless a miracle happens and I get my self-confidence back, because you see me stuttering over my words and barely able to get anything out, right? Okay, so let's see. What were the 4 reactions? The first one was the gut reaction, then there was the fridge logic reaction, and then there was the, I think, the rubric reaction. basically the longer it takes for you to judge a work, like thinking, wait a minute, that didn't make sense, that's another contributor to quality. So there's high art versus low art, and then there is stuff that focuses on gut reactions versus stuff that, like stuff that's long term. You have to mull it over, think about it. I'm definitely going to make notes for the next vlog that I do. Let's see, what else contributes to it? Oh yeah, context is another thing. Let's see. Let me do a little illustration work right here. Let's see. No, wait. Okay, the author and YoTBA, let's see. Okay, this will also probably help in conversations about critical theories. Let's see, since that's becoming all the rage now, since nobody seems to understand it. Let's see, Hika says it sounds like something to do with the things you see on the surface level, kind of like a tiny dramatic irony. It's a little more complicated than that, but it's close, and Yo does it. Okay, here is the 4 different critical theories. There's the theory of the author, the theory of the work itself, the theory of the work and how it's adapted, and the theory of the audience. There is what the author is, their background, their choices, their ideologies, how that contributes to the work. There's the work itself, in which how it is constructed, what characters are selected, where's the setting, what is the plot. The execution, what events are picked, what is the tone, what is the theme. Because you could take many different kinds of works that executed in different ways and create something good, like say, take the Scooby-Doo series and you create Zombie Island, which is considered a masterpiece, or you take the same bits and you create Velma. And then you have the topical humor. Then you have the audience, which of course, like I said earlier, is the difference between the people who watch Downton Abbey and the same people who watch Beavis and Butthead. The difference between somebody who will watch a Lifetime original movie versus someone who watches Tyler Perry, which are basically the same plot. I gotta be careful. Let's see. Hika says subtle shade, but I gotta be careful of subtle shade because I'm sick of the whole like, ew, Spaz looks down on people for disagreeing with them. Hey, do you like Velma? Good. You're allowed to like Velma. If someone else doesn't like it, they're allowed to not like it. Again, this goes back to what I mean by audiences. There are people who will like some things and people who won't. Ideally, you should appeal to your target audience, or at least a wide audience, but still. Let's see. Cascadian says, crazy that I grew up with your content in my teens, my mid-20s. Good to see you back. Well, I wouldn't say I'm entirely back, but at least I'm back enough to, I guess, clear things up and answer questions. Okay, Peachy says, writing for shows, games, and movies, etc. needs effort when it comes to the storyline. Yes, definitely. The following was brought to you by H-E-B Sparkling Water. But yes, there's a million different things that constitute good writing. I'm a sketch comedy writer mainly. So for me, a lot of good writing is good sketch work. Like, it's not all highfalutin stuff. Like, personally, I could not get through James Joyce's, what's the nonsense novel called again? Finnegan's Wake. I could not get through Finnegan's Wake, not even if you paid me. Well, how much you paid me really depends, but let's see. Tika says, well, effort and care, it's not really enough to put forth the effort. You have to at least care about what you do. True. Okay, so in my little research notes, I found that a lot of writing is geared towards this, the 3-act structure, Freytag's pyramid type thing. You all have seen this diagram, right? This is how writing is normally taught. But on my research, well, I was looking up how anime scenario writers were taught, and they're taught a different way of writing. For example, has anyone seen this? This is Labov's diamond. Down here you have orientation. It's very similar to the Kisho Tenketsu model that's commonly used in 4 commas in Japanese comics. And then you have, if I can remember how Labov's diamond works, let's see. Probably going to mix these up. Let's see, reaction. Okay, yo Goomba. Okay, so the orientation, which gives us the who, what, the when, the where. But then you got the disruption, which I think is a cooler term than conflict, because conflict implies, and Catfish Neo and Cryotic. Okay, conflict implies that, people versus people, man versus God, man versus nature, versus. Whereas with disruption, there doesn't necessarily have to be an overt conflict. It could be two friends disagreeing on something. It doesn't have to be disagreeing on something. It's the classic, something they expect to happen either is worse or better than it is. I think one great example is Azumanga Daioh, where Osaka kicks her shoe off to predict the weather or something and flies into the air. Her and Shio-chan are watching it, then it falls into the street, and then a truck hits it. The truck is the disruption. And then that leads to the reaction, where you get the shocked faces and whatnot. And then finally the result, what are they going to do afterwards? And Clover. So, let's see, that is Labov's diamond, and it fits very well with the Kisho Tenketsu model for Japanese narratives. Let's see, what other models did I have on here? Oh yeah, there's the narrative codes by Gerard Genet, which, let's see. So I'm trying to remember how it goes, but one of them is the proreatic code and the hermeneutic code. The proreatic code is the characters, the costumes, the symbols, and how they change and flow over time. The hermeneutic code is how things change as it is the information flow, as in what is revealed over time. You've probably seen an anime or played a video game where a character will bring up something along the lines, yes, they're responsible for the burst trigger climax. And the whole time you're wondering, what is the burst trigger climax? And eventually, you're wondering, that's part of the hermeneutic code. You're wondering, what is this burst trigger climax? And finally, they reveal what it is, and it changes everything that was revealed prior to the information. If you played any ArcSys games, you definitely know. Okay, Does It Fix It says, have any advice on riffing fanfics? Nowadays, my advice on riffing fanfics is don't. Do not riff fanfics without the author's permission, and make sure the author gives explicit permission and everyone is on board to know that it is a live review and that you're not looking down on people. Otherwise, you'll end up in my situation where people claim that your riffs are the reason that you look down on writers, or that you're against new writers, that you'll send your army after new writers, and that there's only one way to write. And then you'll have to spend 10 years basically having to fight your way out of depression and then make vlogs like this to explain what you actually believe about writing. To give a subtle answer. Okay. Peachy says, sometimes things could have lore in shows and games, and yes. That's another thing about hermeneutics and lore, is the reason why we consume all the lore in the games, why we play Dark Souls, and even though there's no overt story, we keep looking for breadcrumbs of stories. We look for what's known as micro-narratives. We want to piece things together. We want to answer unanswered questions. And part of the game is looking for all the answers. Okay, so what else have I got in my notes? Yes, how people learn narratives is another thing I discovered. Let's see. I didn't write down who did the original studies, but Oh yeah, Hika, funny you mentioned becoming archaeologists of narrative. One of the notes I have here is like, screw the cavemen, let's learn how kids learn stories. Because the way kids learn stories is actually very similar to how AI is learning to tell stories. And the way they learn stories is in 5, sometimes the research said 6 steps. I'm going with 5, it's easier to do. The first steps is heaps. If you've ever listened to a kid, if you ever worked with kids, then you'll like hear them when they tell stories like, once there was a bird and there was a tree. Trees look like broccoli and I don't like broccoli. It's just a stream of consciousness. It's just one after the other. If I could illustrate it, heaps are like, there was a thing, and there was a thing, and there was another thing, and there was another thing, and there was another thing. But then you got things like sequences, where the kid will tell you, first I went to school, and then I read a book, and then I took a nap, and then I went home, and then, and then, and then, and then, and then, and it just keeps going. It's just information pouring out. But eventually, kids learn not to tell this unless they want parents to either sleep or smack them upside the head. Whoosh. Commentary. Okay. But then you get what is known as the primitive narrative, where you finally add the and, but, and therefore. Like, we were going to get ice cream, and I wanted chocolate, but they were out. And then I got something else, and then we went to the zoo. So you can use that to chain events together. Let me check the chat. Okay. But it doesn't make a compelling story. It's good to relay information to people. Like, kids start learning to do that when they're, I guess, like maybe 3, 4, or 5. But then, and this is what I learned, what originally drew me to stories and made me wonder, why can't I learn this in the early days, is the adding the house to create suspense in what's known as chains. And they'll usually come up with, well, it gets a little rambly. Like, here's the example I wrote down for what a chain is. Once upon a time, there was a prince and a princess, and then a dragon took the princess, so the prince went on an adventure, and then he fought goblins, and then this happened, but then that happened, there's no closure. So finally, we get to a true narrative, which is where there's actually a beginning, middle, end, and a solid setup and theme. Like, I was playing Frisbee with my brother, and he threw it on the roof, and he tried to get it, but then he got stuck on the roof, so I went up to get it, then I got stuck on the roof, and then Dad got home, and he came home, but he had a ladder this time, so everything worked out. And you can use that to build larger stories. All right, any other questions before I move on to the next part? Let me get some more water real quick. Okay. So the next thing I learned was the concept of the author to audience pipeline. Let's see. Because when we write, it's not just, like, people tend to get stuck in the words, but they forget that it's eventually going to reach an audience. So let's see, audience. Okay. And by knowing this, it allows you to make some postmodern work. Like, as much as people criticize like Ditter for fucking with the audience, the one thing I liked was that I love breaking the fourth wall. I like making audiences parts of the work. Every time I see a cartoon and Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck or whoever turns to the camera and says, yeah, we did this kind of stuff to them all through the picture, I laugh out loud. I love that stuff. So here we have the author to audience pipeline. There is you, the author, the creator of the work. Here's the audience, the recipient of the work, and in the middle is the work. But there's also these two areas right here. The implied author, what the audience thinks of you, and the implied audience, which is what you are anticipating the audience will be like. So for every paragraph you write, for every sentence you do, when you're you imagine how this audience right here is going to react. But carbonated water. The thing is, this audience is not this audience. So you could, like in my case of the Ditter example, you think, oh, I'm going to play with the audience, and then this is like, oh, he's looking down on writers. So you got to be careful to not think this audience is this audience, or they'll think this one is an asshole at this one. But on the bright side, you can use it to be like, okay, I want the person to be in suspense here, and then they'll be like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next. All right. So we got ourselves the different shapes of stories that I learned. Then there is the, Hika says, right, we expect a reaction, but the audience is likely to react differently than from what we expect. Definitely. Okay, then of course we have the circle of expectations. I guess this is another thing. This is what I learned back in my improv days. Okay. Okay. Hope this illustration works and doesn't, well, I would say get me demonetized, but I don't monetize my channel anyway. The circle of expectations. In the exact middle, in the bullseye, is exactly what the audience expects is going to happen. I call this the boring zone. I'm sorry, this illustration. I should probably, let's see, add a few more circles. This is going to turn into a meme, isn't it? Okay, so down in here, we got the boring zone. This is the audience expects, oh, this is going to happen. It did happen. Boo, boring. Out here is the zone of confusion. This is where something that nobody would see happening, and they're confused by it. So let's say two characters sit on a bench, and the other person starts feeding pigeons. That's a little boring. The other person says, I'm responsible for the Oklahoma City bombings. Timothy McVeigh didn't do anything. That would be right around here because that's really, really out there. If the person were to pull out an animal translator helmet so the other person could talk to the animals, that would be right on the edge of the interesting zone. Because this is, now I'm using an actual example. Like there was a sketch where one guy is like, man, I hate these birds. I'm going to throw a rock at them. The other one goes, you don't know that bird story. Put on this animal translator helmet. Now ask him about the endangerments of the swallows in Capistrano. So that would be right here in the interesting zone. So the guy goes over to the bird wearing this animal translator helmet, asks him about the swallows, and in here would be like a really boring answer, like, oh, I don't talk to those swallows. Out here would be like, we know the secrets, come with us. But here's what ended up in the interesting zone. The guy puts on the animal translator helmet, goes over to the bird, says, hey, do you know anything about the swallows? And the bird goes, screw that, man, I like Jimi Hendrix. I don't like Bob Dylan, his hair looks like it's on fire. Never dropped acid at Woodstock, man. I tried some, I thought I could swim. The guy starts laughing. The guy with the helmet's, the guy who gave him the helmet's like, what are you laughing at? This guy's talking about dropping acid at Woodstock. You simpleton, don't ask them about pop cultural plebeian whatever. I love that one. Okay, so that's the circle of expectations. Oh, let's see, is the chat updated? Let's see. Hika says, of course, you could have a manner of predicting what might happen based on how they're interested. Yes, that's another thing. We talk about operant conditioning in improv. Let's see. God, do I have a salt factory examples of how to mess that up? Yeah, gauging the audience, especially in improv, because when you're doing improv, you have a live audience to back you up because they'll laugh, they'll applaud, and they'll be silent if they're starting to get bored. Even when I'm looking at the chat being engaged, that's my way of gauging myself. Okay, the other notes I have are on actually how to write. There's generating, organizing, translating, and revising. Let's see, I think I'll stream for either 45 minutes to an hour, and then I'll call it a night. I think next time I might maybe stream something in the background, but then again, I got these notes right here. I also have like a whole plethora of writing books that I have just in case. Let's see, Goomba says, how do you make sure a character isn't boring or one-dimensional? Oh, there are a million different examples about that. In fact, that's actually what I was studying for a tabletop game. Where did I put my marker? Let's see, actually, good thing I mentioned the books. A great example of how to write characters is Leos Egri's The Art of Dramatic Writing, which goes into something called the character bone structure, which is the psychological, the sociological, and the physical. Let's see if I can pull up the bone structure from this. Let's see, where is it? Okay, character arcs. Okay, the bone structure. Here we go. The 3 dimensions, let's see, physiology, of course, a lot of people in character design know this one. You got sex/gender, age, height, weight, color of the hair, skin, and eyes, the posture, the appearance, defects, and heredity. Most people, when designing the physical aspects of a character, that's easy peasy. But then we got the psychological, and this brings me to a very nifty model. Hexaco, which stands for honesty. Let's see, what was the E? I know the X is for extroversion. See, the O is openness. I'm trying to remember what the rest of it is, but basically, hold on. I had notes on the Hexaco model around here. Let's see. Pete says, well, I guess if I use our advice, I can use for a Walvis comic video, some techniques, but I got ideas of my own, so I can do. Anytime I got to go. Okay, see you, Peach, and I wish you the best of luck. Let's see. I know I have an example of the Hexaco model around here somewhere. Okay, I also have like a little a notebook of like some of my research. There is the story diamond. Let's see, the Dramatica table of elements. Let's see, the oh, here we go. Honesty, thank you, Hika. Honesty, emotionality, extroversion, agreeableness versus anger, consciousness, openness, experience. Yes, and there's different dimensions of each of them. And what I found is, if you remember the simple character model that I had on DeviantArt, where you take a positive trait and a negative trait that affects other people, then pick one, which one's stronger and which one's which one's a strength and which one's a weakness, then you get a very simple character pretty much instantaneously. Let's see, Rillis, hope you're having a great day. Well, trying to at any rate. Let's see, I know I have it in here somewhere. Okay, Friedman's thing on characters. Where the frig did I put the Hexaco model? Protagonist clause. I'm sure I'll find it somewhere. But let's see. But basically, you pick one of the models. You pick one that's either too positive or too negative, because somebody who is too open could become gullible, but somebody who's too closed could become closed-minded. You can also, let's see, because there's a difference between someone who's shy and then someone who's like completely cut off from society, and there's a difference between someone who's confident and then someone who's a complete narcissistic blowhard. Like, basically, any positive trait can be exaggerated until it becomes a weakness. In fact, I remember the story of the original draft of Toy Story had Woody way more negative. Because he was the top toy, he would be mean to other toys. He would always like steamroll over them, act like a dick. He had this better than you attitude, but then they started wondering, maybe we have Woody a little too full of himself. So in the next draft of Toy Story, they show the good side of that trait. They show that like he's a leader type. He organizes things. He's the one that's telling everyone to get a moving buddy for a moving day. He's the one that's organizing this whole thing. But when everyone comes to Woody, that is when the weakness shows itself. We see the good side, but then we see the negative side where it's like, oh, why don't you have a moving buddy? It's like, no, I'm going with Andy because I'm the top toy. And then Buzz comes along and then Buzz has his weakness and that he's too cocksure of himself, same thing, not thinking he's a toy either, but then the both of them realize, maybe we both have this problem. Which of course leads them working together and in the climax flying off into Andy's car. We're flying! No, we're just falling in style. We're not aiming for the truck. That is that is your classic epiphany climax right there. Okay, so back to my notes. Okay, then there's so going back. So we got the psychological, you pick a strength, you pick a weakness. Hexago is a great map. There's also Ocean. I prefer Hexago because Ocean is the openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and what does the N stand for? Neuroticism. They're both good maps of personalities. Neither of them are set in stone. They're good reference charts. That's mainly, if it helps you write a story, then it works. Let's see, I have a character that made a thing who, let's see, I have a character chart thing, the guy who made JoJo made. Oh yeah, the guy who wrote JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. He has a great book too that has a very similar chart. Yeah, I forgot the name of the book, but it is a very good reference tool. He also is trained in a lot of this classic narratology stuff. I would highly recommend looking him up as well. But sociology is another thing to pay attention to. The person's class, their social group, their public mask, that is another thing that affects how the character acts. I've been reading Robert McKee's character lately, and if you don't know Robert McKee, he's like the writing teacher. It's required by some networks. I think back in the day, Nickelodeon required people to take Robert McKee's courses, but McKee had 4 selves. There was the public self, the private self, the core self, and the hidden self. The public self was the self that the person portrayed to the world. Like, you take someone like in the series Mad Men, you have someone who's this top salesman, this top dog, this man's man. And then you have the inner self, they're an alcoholic, a drunk. Then you got the core self where they're insecure and they're they have to portray themselves as being the top dog. And then you have this hidden self that they don't know about, their inner desire, which is along the lines of being anything less is basically death. You'd have to read the book itself to get the actual example, but it should give you an idea of how the public self, the personal self, the core self, and the hidden self all work. I missed this comment. Dizit says, Spaz, do you have any advice for getting into a project after going on to hiatus for several months? No, because if I did, I would be following it. I wish I had that myself. Otherwise, I would not be doing this stream. Oh yeah, Miss Goomba says, I have read Save the Cat. I too, where is it? Have Save the Cat, and I also have Save the Cat Strikes Back. It teaches it's a cross between Sid Field's Paradigm and Vogler's Hero's Journey. Well, actually it was Joseph Campbell who came up with the hero's journey, but Christopher Vogler in his notes to Disney, which he published in The Writer's Journey, which I have right here, that became the popular paradigm for writing stories. And in my little reference book, okay, let's see. In my reference book here, I should have a great page. Oh yeah, I got one page here that basically compares all of the writing structures. It says, what are some great writing books for beginners? Well, obviously, the book that I always recommend that I'm currently using, and I probably shouldn't have been as a stand for my little keyboard. I'm wearing my Marissa shirt right now. Robert McKee's Story, the go-to guide for storytelling. It's actually heavily based on, I learned structuralist narratology, just simplified into everyday language. But my second favorite book is John Truby's The Anatomy of Story, and he's recently published a sequel called The Anatomy of Genres, which goes into all the different genres. What other books would I recommend? If you're writing novels, story engineering is always a popular one. It's basically kind of like Save the Cat or Sid Field's screenplay, which I have on Kindle, which is in my room. It also covers the Fieldian paradigm. And if you don't know what the Field paradigm is, okay, so the Field paradigm is a 7-stepper. Let's see. So here's how it works. Here's how a lot of these structures work. First, you have the intro, and then you have the ending. So let's say, give me an example of, I guess, a popular movie, story, whatever, and then I'll continue with that example. I'll mark up the other points while I wait for an example. So intro, midpoint, plot point 1, pinch point 1, plot point 2, pinch point 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I got the example of Mulan, but I know this is going to make people wince. I have not seen Mulan. Pick another one. All I know is it's about a girl who has to pose as a guy, and has a dragon as a sidekick, and they fight Huns, and that's about it. Hercules. It's been a while since I've seen that one too. Okay, Lion King. Shoot, all these Disney movies I haven't seen in ages. A live-action movie, preferably. I'm sorry, it's been a while since I've watched these cartoons. Okay, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Okay, that one I do remember. Okay, so how does Scott Pilgrim versus the World end? And chances are if you haven't seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World, well, it's your fault for not seeing it, so I'm about to spoil it. So in the end, he finally gains self-confidence and he gets the girl. That's how it ends. How does it begin? He is a little dweeb that's dating a high schooler. That is our intro point. But then, let's see, if I remember correctly, he meets Ramona Flowers at a party and falls in love with her. But the problem is, she has a bunch of evil exes that Scott has to battle. So that will be plot point 1, meets Ramona, falls in love with her. But then the pitch point is all the conflict that follows after that till the midpoint, where, let's see, I forgot what the midpoint is. If I remember correctly, okay, first he fights the Bollywood dancer guy, then the stunt double guy, and then the vegan telekinetic guy. Let's see, vegan police! Gelato's not vegan, it's milk and eggs, bitch. Let's see. I forgot the midpoint for Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Shoot. I do remember the second, let's see. The second pinch point, I believe, it just keeps getting harder and harder to fight all these X's until finally the second plot point, which is also known as the Dark Night of the Soul, where things get their worst. Let's see, Ramona breaks up with him. He ends up getting killed in the second duel. It's like, oh, it's too bad I died. I just learned something. But then he revives. He gains his confidence back. Scott Pilgrim has gained the power of self-respect. Shing! And thus we get our whole plot. Let's see. Oh yeah, that is the second pinch point. His own exes start making an appearance. And he starts coming face to face with his own demons and whatnot. Basically learning that he's basically reflecting the same thing. Okay, I know that was kind of a rough example, but that should just get a general idea. These things aren't foolproof. They're just meant to give you a very, very brief skeleton of how you're supposed to structure everything. Getting hot. Okay. Let's see. But going back, other books I would recommend. Oh, Wonder Book by Jeff Vandermeer. If you don't know who Jeff Vandermeer is, one of his stories got adapted into a movie, I think, starring Natalie Portman. Annihilation. Yeah, this is the guy who made Annihilation. And let's see. Hopefully, to avoid copyright laws, we'll just skim through it. It is amazingly illustrated. There's like a bazillion illustrated examples in it. And it goes through, it's mostly on world building, character building. It has a whole crapload of interviews with other authors. Let's see. Definitely a great go-to. Let's see. Wouldn't recommend this for beginning writers, but I recently came across this little beauty, Beginning Theory, which goes over the history of literary theory. If you want to understand the history of how writing was taught. Okay, so going back, what other notes do I have here? Let's see. Oh yeah, speaking of characters, there's also casts. Let's see, who came up with this? Oh yeah, I too have stuff on writing for video games. I have Level Up by Scott Allen in my library in my room that I have to run back and get it. Let's see, oh yeah. I forgot who came up with this, but there's the the Actantial Narrative Schema model for developing character relations. Now, where is my board? Okay, so you have your character, you have their personality, their sociology. Ooh, Goomba, I also have the ultimate guide to video game writing and design. Yeah, actually, you know what? Give me a second. I'm going to run and get it. Yeah, Goomba, look familiar? Yep, I got this book too. It also goes into the things that go into level design and whatnot too. I'm not a game maker, but I love studying video game design because it's always been fascinating to me. I wish I had the willpower to finish one. Oh yeah, here's Scott Rogers' Level Up, which also covers story structure too. He has a great theory on, you either, let's see, what is that theory? Says you can only pick two of something. What is it? Writing for story. The Triangle of Weirdness. On page 44. Okay. The Triangle of Weirdness. See. Developers can craft virtual worlds that feature non-Newtonian physics, bizarre characters, and absurd quests. It is possible to go crazy with creativity, especially with writing with the game story, which is why I created the Triangle of Weirdness. Notice the differences in the triangle. See. With Wizard of Oz, you have weird characters, such as the Tin Man, the Lion, the Scarecrow, and the Land of Oz. Let's see. But the activities are normal. Meanwhile, in Star Wars, you have interesting characters and activities, but okay. Well, the main characters of Star Wars are familiar with the young hero, the princess, and the charming rogue. Their desires are familiar, join the war effort, defeat the villains, but... let's see. Yeah, it's mainly let's see. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm stuttering over my words. The examples they give here are The Wizard of Oz, Star Wars, and Monty Python and the Holy Grail. One of them has weird characters, one of them has a weird world, and one of them has weird activities. Okay, that makes sense now. You can either have weird... Shoot, I'm stumbling over my words. It's starting to get late. I've been streaming for 45 minutes without a break. But I think if you just Google the Triangle of Weirdness from Scott Rogers' Level Up, you'll find it. I apologize for that. Let's see. Did I miss anything? Okay. So a little cast design stuff, and I think we'll use the last 15 minutes for some goofing off, because I got some funny stuff over here to show. Yo, Zephin. Okay. No, wait. I messed up already. Okay. So you got the hero. Let's see. The object of desire. Opponents and allies. Okay, so these are the 6 base characters in basically every story. And I know this doesn't seem like much, but let's see. So if we boil this chart down, the main character, the subject, has a goal, the object, that they have characters that can help, which are the allies, or characters that can hinder, the opponents. You have a motivating character, the sender, and a reward, a receiver, that empowers something else. Now, this might not seem like much, but the ally-opponent roles alone can generate a bunch of characters. You can have a sidekick and a villain, a supporter and an intimidator, a mentor and a skeptic, an ideal character and like a character that represents temptation, a false villain, a false hero, a sour ally, a friendly competitor. That alone will give you about 14 different characters. You can have the mission control that sends them on the mission. You can have a character blackmailing them. You can have a character that they're fighting for, which can also take more than one role. You have a character that can reward them. Basically, if you're struggling with coming up with how different characters can fit in different plots, this is always a good chart to refer to. Again, that is the Actantial model. I think it's made by, his last name is Greimas, Greimas. Let's see, what was that guy's name? I don't have it written down. There's also the canonical narrative model, which he made to supplement it. And it asks the question, what do the characters want? Can they actually do it? How well can they do it at the time? Because a character who's like injured will not work as well as a character who's not injured. What's compelling them and what are the results? Okay, what else? Oh yeah, this brings me back to what was asked earlier about character traits. Oh yeah, and you don't have to use hexacode. The models I listed here are the Ocean model, which I've said previously, the Enneagram personality type, which is 9 different personality archetypes. Basically, I think it's like 3 variations with 3 variations of each. One of them is controlled by the head, the other one by the heart, the one by the body. One, I think, avoids, goes towards, and one ignores. You'll have to look it up. It's all pretty simple to understand. The Myers-Briggs is very popular. Like, I've been critical of the Myers-Briggs personality type for hard psychological stuff, but for coming up with characters, you can't go wrong with Myers-Briggs. You can use mythological archetypes as outlined in the hero's journey, or in this case, the writer's journey. Stuff like the shadow, the anima, the animus. And you don't need to focus on every single trait. There's a thing called focalization. You only have to focus on one trait. And here I have an example of assertiveness from the Ocean model. You can have a healthy low amount, which creates a humble person, a healthy high amount, which creates a confident person, an unhealthy low amount, which is a submissive weak person, and an unhealthy high amount, which is a controlling blowhard. And of course, you can also add value models, what the person values. You got the Spencer-Stuart integrated model. You can have a character that favors stability and flexibility, or a character that favors, there's stability versus flexibility, i.e. one character wants things the same and one character is loosey-goosey, classic odd couple thing. You got independence versus interdependence, one character, yo, imperishable neat. One character that likes to do things alone, and then another one that has to do things with everyone else. And if you look at it in healthy, unhealthy ways, a healthy, independent person likes to do things their own way, but can work as a team. The unhealthy one would not work as a team. They're like, I never work with anyone. I work alone. And usually their character arc predictably has them working as a team by the end so that it becomes healthy. Interdependence, the healthy one would be a team player. The unhealthy version would be codependent, always clinging to people, yandere, basically. What else do we have? Other need systems include Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Murray's systems of needs, which is used in French and Japanese writing. You got Schwartz's wheel of values, which is what the Stuart Spencer model is based on. And let's see. Higa says, on that note, a recommendation I can give is, Weiland's character creating character arcs. K.M. Weiland, that is another. She has amazing guides for beginners. Again, those are mostly on Kindle and audiobook, so I don't have physical copies, but K.M. Weiland's writing series, she has one on outlining, one on structuring. Outlining is a loose model, structuring is a tight model. She has great stuff on theme, on characters. You should check out her blog, Turning Writers into Authors, I think it's called. K.M. Weiland, Weiland. She also has a series, I forgot what it's called, not Highlanders, something Lander. It'll come to me, I'll think of it. But basically, K.M. Weiland, I cannot recommend her enough. She is amazing. Let's see, I'll also use the fantasy name generator to come up with the names. Oh yeah, let's see, Seventh Sanctum and, what's the name of that other site? Seventh Sanctum and shoot, there's a great generator site that has a bunch of really cool generators. That also gets the gears flowing too. In fact, what I'm going to end the stream with, since I said I was going to stream for an hour, to get the gears flowing was show off some of my the card decks that I bought. Okay, and how to build a cast and characters. If you pick some traits, let's see. Let me read what I have verbatim. Oh yeah, the semiotic square. This is another one of McKee's favorites. Okay, what can I do if I can't come up with new ideas? Just write down whatever comes to mind. There are no bad ideas. Just keep writing, and eventually things will click. They don't have to make sense at first. The right brain comes up with random ideas. The left brain pieces them together. It's all about piecing together random things. Okay, so A, B, not A, not B. Okay, this is the semantic square. It's a popular tool by Robert McKee for coming up with conflict, but you can also use it to come up with characters. So let's say I have a character who is lazy. The opposite of laziness, I guess, would be fastidiousness, somebody who is a hard worker. But then you have something that's neither lazy or fastidious, I guess, somebody who's just right in the middle, someone who's just a regular worker, and then down here, someone who's just plain lucky. That gives you 4 different character traits to work with, but then you can come up with another one. Okay, someone who's happy-go-lucky, then someone who's like a hard-ass, or someone who's emotionally neutral, and then you have someone who's a complete weirdo. That's a very common one. So you can keep combining these things in this semantic square until you have an entire cast. Here's an example I came up with using the square. Okay, so let's pretend we're building a cast of characters with the base work values of hard work. Its opposite, not hard work. So let's see. And what's between that? Working smarter. But then we got laziness. And then we got, let's see. The contrary, laziness. So what's not working harder and not working smarter? Let's see. But from here we got 4 different personality types, and we can add seriousness, goofiness, serious but goofy, then goofy but serious. And then we got pragmatic, moral, flexible, and apathetic. So from that cast, we can have a character who's lazy, goofy, and moral, a character who's hardworking, serious, and flexible, a character who's passive, goofy, and pragmatic, a character who works smarter, goofy, but serious and flexible, a character who's hardworking, serious, but goofy, and moral, and a character who is passive, serious, and apathetic. That's 64 possible characters, and I mainly use that figuring out the characters from the cast of K-On! So it is possible to make 64 characters using the base traits from the K-On! Cast. It also works with costumes I wrote down here. You can have casual, fancy, trendy, eclectic, masculine, feminine, androgynous, gender fluid, straight lines, curvy lines, geometric shapes, chaotic patterns. There's no limit to how you can use the semantic square. And we're approaching the end of the hour. Like I said, I was here to answer questions and I guess preview some of the future vlogs I was going to do. And of course, like I said, answer questions. I think I already said that. It's getting late. Let's see. Yeah, but like I said, ChatGTP and the AI processors, they're still in the early stages. Like I said, the way we learn storytelling is in heaps, then chains, and sequences, and simple narratives. Right now, AI is currently, I think, in the chains part, because it's great at making stories that are and then, but very little makes sense. And because it's trained on basically as more quantity over quality, the content leaves little to desire. All right, so for the last 5 minutes, I figured we'd... if you want a great example of AI-written narrative in action, you should totally look up Sonic Destruction by Snapcube, the same folks behind the Sonic fan dubs. I pissed on the moon, you idiot! All right. So I don't know how we're going to do this over stream like this. I guess I'll just show you the card and you pick it. This is a game called Pitch Storm. So I figured we could do, I guess, a challenge me to come up with a story thing. I'm going to show you a card, 3 cards, and you tell me option 1, 2, or 3. I'm not going to look at them. Okay, let's see. Okay. So let's see. 1, okay. It's blurry from here, so I can't see it. 1, 2, or 3. Okay. I got a 3. So 1, 2, or 3. Pick a character. I got a 1. I guess best 3 out of 3. Okay. A lot of them going for 1. All right, next vote decide. Let's see. I got 2 1s, 2 3s. It's kind of like Cards Against Humanity. You're going to see in a second. So I need a tiebreaker for 1 or 3. 3. Okay, so 3 right here. Okay, I believe that's 3, isn't it? That's the third one? Okay. I'm going to put these cards aside. Now we're going to decide a plot. Okay, actually, let's do 2 of them. Okay, better 1 or 2? 1 or 2? I can't read it from here, but I can see the chat. Let's see. Okay, I got 1 1, 1 2. I got a 2. Best out of 3. So 1, 2. Okay, so 2. I'm going to set that aside, and let's see what I got. Okay, a ruthless politician hungry for power becomes a vigilante to rid their city of crime. Okay, so our story involves let's see, he's the mayor of a town, and there's, of course, crime rampant everywhere. And hi, STK. But the problem is he's a complete wuss. He tries going to the cops, asking them, hey, could you please, do your job? And the cops are like, shut the hell up, Mayor Twinkle Toes. You're a wuss, and you always will be. So then Mayor Twinkle Toes goes home and is like, okay, if you're not going to fight crime, I'm going to do it. And then he puts on a mask, goes out, starts beating the crap out of the criminals, and let's stop right there. We're going to add a twist to this. I'm not going to look. Better 1 or 2? 1 or 2? So right now we got a crime-fighting mayor going vigilante on criminals. We got, let's see. We got 2 2s and 1 1. Tiebreaker 1. Okay, so let's read what it says. Add more dads. I want this to be the perfect Father's Day movie. Okay. So, battery's starting to run low. Okay. So then, Mayor Twinkletoes, he's told to fight the crime because the dads are like, oh, all these cops, they're not doing anything to protect the children. It's like, yeah. And so he gathers all the dads, like, we're going to be the crime-fighting dads. Let's see. And one of them is Hardware Man with the powers of Home Depot. Call me the Ryobi Chainsaw Man. Let's see. And then we got Sports Car Trading Dad Man. Aces high. I've been stabbed by Dominique Wilkins. This summer, this Father's Day, enters a brand new movie in the Marvel Universe, Justice League of Dads. Fighting crime once they find out who their daughter's dating that night. Okay. Let's do one more round, then we'll call it a night. Let me put these cards back. And Mayor Twinkletoes is political. Oh, the Dad Ventures. Hika said the Dad Ventures. Okay, that will work. Okay, so let's pick a random character card now. Okay, better 1 or 2? 1 or 2? We got 1 for 1. Another 1 for 1. 1 for 2. Okay, we got 1. Set this card aside. Okay, and now the plot. Okay, better 1 or 2? We got 1 1. Oh wait, I think I saw 2 1s. 1. Oh, okay, unanimous 1. All right. Let's see the plot. A friendly dragon living in the forest tries to save as many people from the Nazis in World War II. Okay. Let's see. Silver Scales was the last of the dragons. I'm the last of the dragons. And he was trying to live a peaceful, ordinary life until... Firefly! Oh, all these Nazis are waking me up from my nap. Please help us, Mr. Silver Scales. They're killing us. Oh, my. I should probably do something. But first, I want to take my nap, but I can't do that until I save these dudes from the Nazis. This new family film... Wait. Before we continue... Better 1 or 2? 1 or 2? Let's see. 1 or 2? Okay, we got a 1. Okay, unanimous 1s. This ought to be fun. We need Donald Trump as the protagonist. You sons of bitches. Okay. Let's rewind a bit. He was the last of the dragons. I'm the best of dragons. There's no other dragons. The wyverns, they're bad for the economy. What's that? What's that going on down there? They got a big... No one has a bigger army than the dragons. Please, Mr. Trumper Scale, save us from these Nazis. I don't know. They don't seem like bad people. They got a cross, very big of the Christians. Mr. Trumper Scales, you are getting in the way of our national railroad, which we are going to use. We're going to make Jews with bones for our railway. No one makes bigger railways than me. I make the best deals. I make the best railways. I have the best Dragon Breath. Going to boom the Dragon Breath. Crooked Hillary Scales, the lazy Biden Scales does not have the best breath. I do. This summer, this dragon is going to make rescuing the Jews great again. It's, make Nazis dead again. This summer, dragons are the new right. Rated R for graphic sexual content. Okay. I don't know if we should follow that up or call it a night. Okay, again, this is the Fine Friends at Bitstorm. Okay, we can't top that. We just can't. We should call it a night here. I'll see you guys on the next stream, probably next week. I'll be doing the vlogs in the coming days. I will see you all later. And if you're not in the K&A's creator rights, there should be a link in the last video I posted. I will see you all there. How do I end this? Where's the button? There we go.